is an amusement ride manufacturer based out of Wallerau, Switzerland. Founded in 1967, Intamin manufactures many different types of rides, but are mainly known for their roller coasters, which they've manufactured 163 coasters all around the world, including 41 in the United States. Intamin manufactured their first coaster in 1979 with Wilderness Run, formerly Junior Gemini, at Cedar Point, and have become one of the leading manufacturers in the industry ever since. They are known for creating some of the greatest and most intense roller coasters out there, such as Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion, Expedition G-Force at Holiday Park, ElToroRyan at Six Flags Great Adventure, and Skyrush at Hershey Park. Intamin is also one of the most innovative companies out there, creating the first 300-foot coaster, first 400-foot coaster, the first coaster over 100 miles per hour, and the first coaster in the world to feature a hydraulic launch. However, between 2012 and 2017, Intamin was nowhere to be seen in the U.S. This hiatus led to many questions from coaster enthusiasts as to why the parks in the U.S. were not working with Intamin, while international parks were still purchasing from them during these years. Fortunately, since 2017, Intamin has seemed to have made a return to the United States, and that is what I'll be talking about in today's video. Is Intamin making a comeback in North America and the United States, and what could their future here look like? So Intamin has already produced 5 roller coasters in the United States since 2017, these being Wavebreaker the Rescue Coaster at SeaWorld San Antonio, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, Sandy's Blasting Bronco at Nickelodeon Universe at the American Dream Mall, along with Timmy's Half-Pipe Havoc, also at Nickelodeon Universe, and the currently under construction Pantheon coming to Busch Gardens Williamsburg later this spring of 2020. So that's already 3 different park chains working with Intamin, so it definitely seems like Intamin is interested in working in the U.S. again. Now, even though I feel Intamin could start working with a lot of U.S. park chains in the future, one I do believe that they will very likely not work with again is going to be Cedar Fair. Now, Cedar Fair has actually not worked with Intamin in a decade. The last time they added a ride from Intamin was back in 2010 with Intimidator 305, and they actually recently removed the other Intamin in the same park, Volcano the Blast Coaster, which was a pretty major launch coaster, which was actually having a lot of issues. And the fact that they have not worked with them in a long time signifies that they're probably never going to work with them again. Again, nothing's impossible, but it's probably very unlikely that they will work with them again. And even some of their other rides in the chain, like Accelerator and Top Thrill Dragster, have experienced extensive downtime. Even the same with like Millennium Force and Intimidator 305 itself have experienced a lot of downtime, a lot of breakdowns, even from my personal experience. So I do believe that Cedar Fair just doesn't really like the problems that all the Intamins bring, so they don't want to work with them again. Now, another chain that is probably unlikely to be working with Intamin again, but more likely than Cedar Fair, is going to be Six Flags. Now, I'll talk about a little bit why this chain is more likely to be, but they have actually not worked with Intamin since 2014 with Zumanjaro Drop of Doom, which was actually a drop tower at Six Flags Great Adventure. They have not put in a coaster in the chain since 2011 with Green Lantern at Six Flags Magic Mountain, which has actually been causing a lot of issues recently over there. So, Six Flags has been experiencing the same issues with their Intamin rides breaking down a lot. Like even when I was at Six Flags Great Adventure recently, Zumanjaro and Cantatore were down a lot of the day. So, yeah, Intamin definitely, in terms of manufacturers, is pretty rocky with reliability. The rides do experience lots of downtime and breakdowns a lot, especially compared to like other companies like B&M, Great Coasters International, and like Mock Rides and stuff. So I guess that's one of the main reasons that, most parks aren't working with Intamin. But I think Six Flags could be working with them, and I'll talk about them in a little bit, but I'm not totally sure about that. But Cedar Fair is probably not likely to be working with Intamin. But now I'm going to talk about some of the companies I think will very likely be working with Intamin in the U.S. in the near future. So let's start off talking about SeaWorld, and this chain definitely has a developing relationship with Intamin. They actually have worked with them several times in the past. They're actually working with them now on a coaster, and will definitely be very likely, if not confirmed, to be working with them in the future. So they actually have installed a few rides from Intamin. They installed Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens Tampa in 2011, which was a Blitz coaster. Falcon's Fury, also Busch Gardens Tampa, which was during the time that Intamin wasn't really working in the U.S. very much. But that was a drop tower. They weren't really adding many coasters at that time, but they did add that. And Wavebreaker, the rescue coaster at SeaWorld San Antonio in 2017, which was a launch motorbike coaster. They're working on Pantheon now, Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and Intamin Blitz coaster. And Busch Gardens Williamsburg is also adding, next year, very likely to be adding Drachenfire, which will be a launched shuttle Giga from Intamin. This concept was released by BGW fans about a month ago. This isn't confirmed, but it's very likely that this is, the layout. So that should be cool. So they're definitely working with them quite a bit, and I think they'll work with them on some more projects. Like, I could definitely see a motorbike coaster coming to SeaWorld Orlando, as this park doesn't really have any family coasters. That could be a great fit, and they could also add a Falcon's Fury style drop tower, which those are definitely very popular. There's only 2 of those, but I could definitely see parks adding more of those, and I could see one of those coming to SeaWorld Orlando because they don't really have any thrilling flat rides. I could even see them adding like maybe a motorbike coaster like SeaWorld San Diego, and just some more rides throughout the chain. So definitely SeaWorld's going to be working with Intamin quite a bit. So moving on to Universal, this chain has worked with Intamin, not a lot. In fact, I think the only time they actually worked with Intamin was on Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, which opened in 2019. And that was a launched motorbike coaster. It actually was having quite a bit of issues, like a lot of the other Intamins, so I'm not really sure if they want to work with Intamin again, but there's actually a rumored Blitz coaster coming to Islands of Adventure in the Jurassic Park section next year. Or not next year, I think a few years from now. I'm not totally sure when that's supposed to be, but that should be cool. And I could even see them adding like a Blitz coaster to Universal Studios Hollywood. I don't really think they have a lot of thrilling coasters, so that could definitely work. And even maybe some of the international parks, but that's not really what I'm talking about in this video. So I could definitely see Universal working with Intamin quite a bit, as long as like the problems with Hagrid's aren't too much for the company. They're definitely going to work with the manufacturer for some, coasters in the future. And Cedar Fair, I mentioned, definitely very unlikely will be working with Intamin in the future. So going back to Six Flags, I mentioned earlier, I would talk more about this company. So I think Six Flags is definitely a chain that could be working with Intamin in the future. Actually, so Magic Mountain, if you guys didn't know, is clearing land for a new coaster next year. And I actually heard from some inside sources recently that they could be adding an Intamin water coaster, which is very interesting. I didn't really see this park adding from Intamin again, but I think this could be potential. Something like Divertical. I'm not sure how reliable these are, probably more than some of the other rides. If so, then this could be likely, and I think it'd be a great fit, and I could even see them adding these to some other parks in the chain. They'd be great fits. I don't know about like other rides from Intamin in the chain, probably not. Maybe some like drop towers or something. Like, again, maybe some of those Falcon's Fury drop towers at like some of the parks, but I'm not totally sure. I think most of the Six Flags parks already have drop towers. But I think they could add some of these water coasters. If not, then I don't know. This rumor is not, confirmed. But I think it's potential. But they could just not be adding from Intamin again. And it could be some other coaster at Magic Mountain. So Six Flags could be working with Intamin, but not totally likely. Now moving on to like the Legoland parks. I don't think this chain has even worked with Intamin in the past, so I don't really see them working with Intamin in the future. Maybe, but I'm not really sure. With Disney, I think they've only worked with Intamin like 3 times, and that was with Indiana Jones at Disneyland Paris Incredicoaster, at California Adventure, and Raging Spirits at Tokyo Disney Sea. Disney builds actually most of the rides like in-house, and they do buy from other manufacturers like Vekoma and stuff. So, I don't really see them working with Intamin again because they've only worked with them a couple times, and the last time they did it was in 2005. So definitely probably not Disney will be working with Intamin again. So those are all the major park chains. So moving on to some of the independent parks, it's kind of hard to tell because there's so many independent parks out there. And most of them actually have not worked with Intamin in the past, with the exception of Hershey Park. This park has added 3 coasters from Intamin: Fahrenheit, Skyrush, and Stormrunner. And I definitely think because of this, they could be working with Intamin in the future, but I'm not totally sure. Maybe on another coaster. I wanted them to add one of those Falcon's Fury style drop towers, but they added an SNS one instead for the triple tower. But they definitely could add another Intamin coaster. I'm not really sure what, but maybe a Blitz. I think that could be a great fit. But I'm not totally sure with Hershey Park. That's probably more likely than a lot of the other independent parks. And Lagoon is actually adding a major new, I think it's likely a coaster. I think for 2021 or 2022, it's called Primordial. It's going to be like huge. I'm not even sure if it's going to be a coaster like a dark ride, but I think they could be from Intamin. I'm not really sure. But probably not, but it could be from Intamin. So Lagoon could be working with Intamin. But looking at some other parks like Kennywood or like Lake Compounds, these parks really haven't worked with Intamin. Same with like a lot of, Silverwood and stuff. Holiday World, they have not worked with Intamin in the past, and I don't really see them having plans of working with Intamin in the future. Possibly, but I'm not totally sure. With the Nickelodeon Universe parks, I'm not really sure what else these parks would even add, because they don't really seem to have a lot of space, but Nickelodeon Universe and the American Dream Mall in New Jersey added Sandy's Splashing Bronco and Timmy's Half-Pipe Havoc. So if these rides are successful, I could see them adding stuff from Intamin. But I'm not totally sure, but likely they could be working with Intamin again. But like, those other parks, I just don't really see them working with Intamin. With Kentucky Kingdom, this is actually a park that is definitely on the rise, and I could see them adding something from Intamin. I'm not really sure what this park's future, but it's very bright, and they're going to add definitely a lot of coasters in the near future, so I could see them adding maybe something from Intamin. Like, even a launch coaster, although Ed Hart doesn't like launch coasters, so I'm not really sure about that. But I think Kentucky Kingdom could be adding from Intamin, but I'm not totally sure. So really with the independent parks, I don't see many of them working with Intamin because most of them haven't. Oh, and one more park chain I forgot to mention is Hershey. This chain has not worked with Intamin before, so again, I don't really see them working with Intamin in the future, but I'm not totally sure. It's potential, but I'm not so sure. But I think mainly Universal and SeaWorld definitely going to be working with Intamin in the future. They seem to be developing a great relationship with the company. And in general, I do think Intamin is making a return to the U.S. I think they are making a comeback in the U.S. From that big break they took from 2012 to 2017. They're already adding quite a bit of coasters and could be adding some flat rides and stuff, some of those drop towers. So definitely Intamin is making a comeback, and I think that's really great because this is probably my favorite manufacturer right now. The rides are a bit unreliable, but I think parksters just seem to be interested in working with them again because, their rides are really popular and they're cheaper than like B&M and stuff. And they're just really great. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Intamin making a comeback to the U.S. What do you guys think about Intamin potentially making a comeback in the U.S.? Do you agree with me? Leave all your thoughts down in the comment sections below. Did you guys enjoy this video? I'm thinking of doing more types of videos like this. Like manufacturer-based videos. I'm even planning on doing one on SNS pretty soon. So leave your thoughts on me doing that down in the comments below. And that'll be about it for this video. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.